Today in our 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee, we're going to be installing SMI's Air Force One supplemental braking system, part number SM99243. This is going to be a truly proportional braking system because the air that's coming from your motorhome is going to apply the pedal, and the harder you press the brake in your motorhome, the more air is going to be delivered back to your vehicle to apply the brakes just as equally as hard. As you can see here, when air is delivered to the cylinder, it applies the brake. On the back of your mirror, you'll have an LED indicator that you can watch in your motorhome's rear camera to verify that when you hit the brakes are actually being applied. This way you can ensure and have peace of mind when going down the road that your system's working properly. In the event of a catastrophic disconnect between your motorhome and your vehicle, the breakaway switch will be pulled and apply the brakes inside the vehicle to help bring it to a safe stop. Your kit will come with everything you need to tap and install your system, and you'll receive air fittings and Airline to connect your motorhome over to your vehicle. We've got everything else that we'll need to get our flat tow for our vehicle behind our motorhome set up. We'll begin our installation by mounting all the large components. We'll start with the operating unit, which we just mounted to the top of our fuse box lid here by drilling some small holes and running some zip ties through it to secure it in place. This way you can still access your fuse box if you need to, but you have a nice secure location, then it gives it a nice factory look where it's at. We then mounted our breakaway switch to the mounting location on our base plate. You will have to cut out a small portion of your grill here in the front in order to get access to this and also make that connection. We use the hardware that comes with it, which is just a flat washer, nut and bolt to secure it. We then put our female air connection port and mounted that onto the bottom of our base plate. We did have to use some self-tapping screws, which do not come provided in your kit, but you can pick those up at your local hardware store. We did also have to cut out a small location so we could access that and be able to plug in and out our hose. We then mounted the brake pedal actuator on the shaft that goes down to our brake pedal. You want to mount it up high enough to where you won't contact it during normal driving, but as low as possible otherwise to get the most leverage to pull the pedal. There's a cable coming out of the back of your cylinder that has an anchor point that you'll attach to the Firewall. You'll use a self-tapping screw that comes in the kit to attach that. We did have to use a razor knife to cut out some of the carpet to be able to get a clean mounting surface. We mounted our LED indicator on the back side of our rear view mirror, and the wiring for that we just ran up into our headliner. We went across, we tucked it in behind our A-pillar here, and then we ran it all the way down the A-pillar, tucking it in behind the weather stripping here. Once you get down to this flap here, you'll just push in on that, and we tucked our wire up behind this panel until it came out right back here behind our parking brake pedal. To connect your LED is going to connect to the sensor located here. It's probably not inserted in your cylinder right out of the box. It just slides in and you can secure it with a small flat-bladed screwdriver. There's 3 wires on your sensor, a brown, a blue, and a black. The black hooks to the red wire from your LED. The blue hooks to the black wire from the LED, as well as a ground point. We mounted our ground on our DLC bracket right here using a self-tapping screw. And the last wire is brown. The brown is a power wire, which we ran through the Firewall to our battery positive. Through that same hole, we also ran the air hose that connects to our cylinder. Both of our wires came out here below our brake reservoir. We took our wire and our air hose and we ran them across to the passenger side where our brown wire was crimped onto our fuse harness. The other end of our fuse harness just goes right to our battery positive post here using a ring terminal. You may need to buy larger ring terminals than the ones that come in the kit in order to mount them onto the studs. The hose ran down following our factory wiring, looped around, and goes into the air out port on our operating unit here. The other wire here that you see is red goes to the orange and black wire from our breakaway switch. The kit does include some additional red and black wire because the breakaway switch wires will not be long enough to reach your connection point here, so we just used the red to extend the orange and black and connected it there with the brown. Here is the black wire we used to extend the blue wire from our breakaway switch. it just connects to one of the black wires coming off of our operating unit. The other wire from our operating unit, we just put one of the ring terminals on that comes in the kit, and we connected it to our ground post located right here. The female air port that we put in the front behind our grill has an air hose that runs from there to the air in port on our operating unit. And lastly, you need to hook up your vacuum line. You'll want to make a small section of tube that'll go to one of the check valves, the black side of the check valve facing the operating unit. This air hose will then extend over across to the driver's side. We're behind the engine here, directly straight back from the oil fill cap, where we put in a T-fitting. Now this T-fitting connected in line with our brake booster hose. So your brake booster hose is here, and if you're curious where it comes from, if we follow it over a little further on the driver's side, it comes out right here next to our upper strut. The T-fitting plugs into our factory brake hose on the brake booster side of the hose. This is the hose that came from our operating unit. We then have a small section of hose that we used, placed a check valve in it with the black side facing towards the engine, away from the brake booster and operating unit. And this is the other side of the factory hose that we cut that goes towards the engine. Just plug it into that check valve. Now a lot of the airline and wiring that runs to the parts here in the front is easiest to do when you're installing your base plate. So right after you install your base plate, before you put your factory components back on, that's the best time to start your braking system installation. We can now move on to the motorhome side of our install. Now you need to mount the air tank and relay valve on your motorhome. Now this is going to vary in location depending on your motorhome. On our Fleetwood here, we mounted it on the crossbar just in front of the rear axle. We use the 2 flat washers, bolt and lock nut that comes with the kit to mount it right to that bracket. Next, you'll need to tap into your air supply and metered air lines. Before you do this, make sure that you exhaust all the air from your air tanks. This can be done by just depressing the brake pedal over and over until all the air is gone. You'll get 2 T-fittings that come with the kit, one 5/8 size and one 3/8 size. The 3/8 T-fitting is your smaller fitting, and it's going to tap into your metered air, which is the black air hose you see here. The larger 5/8 inch T-fitting is going to tap into your air supply hose, which is the green hose you see up there. Now the color and location of these hoses is going to vary depending on your motorhome. Each of the 2 T-fittings we just tapped into have a small 1/4 inch port. We're going to run a hose out of each of these T-fittings back towards our air tank that we mounted earlier. Your air supply, which is the larger 5/8 fitting, will have its 1/4 inch hose come out and go to the air tank here, right to this valve. And our metered air, which is the smaller T-fitting, is going to route to the angled fitting here between our tank and our relay valve. And then finally, we'll use the rest of the 1/4 inch air tube that comes in your kit, plug it into the relay valve here, and this is going to go back towards the rear of the vehicle, where we're going to mount our connection point that'll go between our motorhome and our vehicle. That airline routed all the way to the back here toward our female connection point, which we just attached right below our 7-pole connector here on a hitch. Now again, this location is going to vary on your motorhome. You just want to find the best location where you can easily access it. Now to test it out, you are going to have to plug in the air hose from your motorhome to your vehicle, and then you need to hit the brakes on your motorhome a couple times to deliver air back to the braking system on your vehicle. That'll charge the system, and we can verify it works. When you press the brakes in your motorhome, it'll apply the cylinder in the vehicle. And that completes our installation of SMI's Air Force One supplemental braking system on our 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee.